Brittany Chapel. I am Programs Director at ABC Greater Baltimore, and you are logged in here for ABC's Office Hours, where we are going to be discussing life after Procore. Today with us, we have Dustin Sitten of Insight Automation, as well as Jim Merritt of BMore Technology. I am told that Dustin is going to be running the show, and Jim is here for moral support, but they will both be here for you as resources. They would like to make this as interactive as possible. So if you'd like to turn your camera on, that's great. Feel free to jump in at any point with questions, comments. It's a smallish group, so it'll be very interactive and yeah, this is your time to get what you would like out of it. So with that said, this is being recorded and we will share the recording with you all following today's office hours. But I am going to turn things over to the professionals here. Dustin, you want to take it over?
Yeah, and thank you so much, Brittany, for having us. First thing I want to do is just explain who we are. So, BMore Technology, Jim Merritt's on the phone, who's a big presence in ABC in general. They are boots on the ground. They understand construction, they understand tech, and if your systems, your base processes aren't strong, they should be the first stop. They have all the experience in the world in the construction space. Jim, anything you want to add before I pontificate about how great Insight Automation is?
No, I mean, you just said how great we are.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name's Jim. Started BMore Technology 20 years ago. Work with construction companies from here to South Carolina. Construction companies as small as 10 million a year in revenue. We have a paving company that we work with that does 300 million a year in revenue. So to what Dustin said, like we understand construction and we kind of run the gamut and help people out.
Yeah,
and frankly, we get them ready. I tell people we get you ready for Dustin.
Yeah,
because
and
Dustin has all the cool sports cars and the tools, but if your network's not ready, then Dustin can't get the cool tools out.
And at Insight Automation, we are low-code software developers. We help organizations use what they already own, often in their Microsoft or Google stacks, to run their organizations end to end. And it's because of BMore and because of Jim that I first got involved with ABC. And when ABC reached out and said, "Hey, would you like to do a webinar? What would you do it on?" I said, "Well, the question I get most when I'm hobnobbing at ABC events is, Procore, can't live with it, can't live without it." We get that a lot. And for quite a few organizations, both locally and nationally, we have helped organizations find something after Procore, and they get fed up with it for various reasons we'll discuss. And so today, my plan is to show you what's everybody else doing when they finally feel like it's no longer a fit for them, and why are they feeling that way. And by all means, as Brittany said, like this, I want this to be interactive. If you stump me, I have to build you something for free. That's the rule. So bring it on. Like really, like try to make this a thing today. And with that, I'll start getting into it. So, okay, why are people asking me this to begin with? I didn't totally understand, but I started to see some patterns emerge. And if you Google around, there's all sorts of articles. Why are subs? Why are primes? Why are people starting to revolt against Procore? At its core, it's a great product, and I really mean that. But it's really not the product that's the issue. It's their contracts, the renewals, and this sort of, again, hostage mentality. They are continuing to find ways to ask for more money while giving less in return, is the general feeling that I get. And early days when I started the company in 2018, we would build lots of integrations with Procore. And over the years, it's become tougher and tougher to interact with their AI, with their APIs. APIs, the way computer programs talk behind the scenes. They've made the platform more and more restrictive, but also seriously ratcheted up the costs of the product. And it's surprising when I tell most construction companies, despite the outrageous cost that Procore can cost, they're not a profitable company. They are losing money. And if you look at their stock, look at what analysts are saying, they're not doing so hot. They're not a particularly well-run company. So that and added pressure from Autotask and some upstarts is really putting the squeeze on Procore. And so while it may seem impossible to believe that Procore one day might not be the 800-pound gorilla they are, I was there when Internet Explorer had 94% market share of web browsers. And those days are long gone. So all it takes is a couple sparks of innovation and an industry can shift and change. And I'm not saying Procore is at that level yet, but what a fun way to spend our lunch hour together, just exploring what could be. So I'll take a breath there. You can put things in chat. Questions so far. Jim, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I got a Yeti. I got an awesome Yeti Procore bottle, so they can go away. I got the bottle. I'm good. So, and it's orange. So I like Procore because they're orange, and I'm an orange guy. So beyond that, I hear
That's
the same
fair.
thing you hear. People complain about the cost, and I need it for one job, and is it worth it? And
Yeah, that's what we hear. It's not worth what we're paying for it. What else can we do? And the first place I would start, if you feel like you're in that boat, is G2. If you guys aren't familiar with G2.com, now you are. I'm going to put a link to it in the chat. And you can see I've actually got a screen up here called Show Me All the Construction Management Tools that are on the market and where they rank based on expert reviews, based on user reviews, based on all of those things, customer satisfaction and market presence. Who are the leaders? And as you read this, there are some out there like Builder and ProJewel that are new upstarts that don't have a lot of market share, but they are considered high performers, maybe worth looking at, right? You can see Procore is up here. Now, the way that G2 ranks things is how is their market presence and how good is the product? Nobody argues that Procore is not a good product, and nobody argues that they're not the 800-pound gorilla. They just argue it costs too darn much, right? So it shows up very, very high on this list. They also throw things on here that I don't even think are in the same category, like Howls and things like that as you look. But this is all construction management. And maybe it's time to revisit Autodesk. We haven't looked at it in a few years, right? But whatever sort of software you need for your organization, G2 is a great resource to see what other products on the market are up and coming. What do others think about them? What sort of areas can they help and what do they cost? This tool does a great job of showing you that, and you don't even have to log in to try it out. So a lot of our investigations for really niche industries, not construction, start here at G2. So number one, see what other off-the-shelf software is available, okay? And that's a great path. But even then, I've been to so many subcontractors, so many primes, everybody does things differently. And the thing I hear the most, even when they like Procore, is we have to bend and contort to fit into it. It's still not quite how we work, okay? And so then what do you do? Well, for those of you that are in the Microsoft ecosystem, there's a lot of tools that you own that you can use to round out those rough edges and even replace some functionality or even Procore completely using those tools. It's a road that takes some work. You have to articulate what you want. You have to put in the time to build it with a partner, most likely like us. But you can use the tools that you own in an ecosystem like Microsoft's. I'm bringing up Microsoft because that's the one that most people have, to replace largely the functionality that these tools have. And we've had success replacing, either bits and pieces of tools that organizations use or everything outright using these platforms. And I'm going to take some time and show you what I mean. So, for example, everyone that's in Office 365 in this call already owns Power Automate. Whether you know it or not, you have this tool available to you, okay? And I can use this tool to just get rid of busy work. Whenever you start a new project, right, there's probably a hive of folders that you want to create to keep track of all the projects you're doing. Maybe you keep those folders in Dropbox. Maybe you keep them in SharePoint, maybe you keep them on a file server. But this tool could generate not just that folder hive, but the documents within it. And all you have to do is have a trigger and then articulate what you want, and then you're off to the races there. For example, our CTO, Laura Gretz, is on this call. And if I type into this box, whenever I get an email, send Laura Gretz a Teams message that says, booyah, right? I hit generate, and Power Automate will create a Power Automate flow that will perform that action. And so we could also create something that says, whenever we mark this job as, ready for pre-con, right? Automatically create these folders and these contracts within. You can teach the system based on Word templates to do that sort of thing. When a new email arrives, that's my trigger. Post a message in this chat. Every morning at 7 a.m., send everyone a text message to fill out the attendance form, right? All the sort of busy work activities that you might do, we are often using this tool to help with. And if you click add a step to this tool, you'll see that it's not just for Microsoft products. If I type in the Google suite, right, you can build things in here. If you're using Building Connected or Bluebeam, right, there's ways to build connectors into this for that. And even Procore itself, we have a lot of organizations, when a record is marked a certain way in Procore, then automatically create it in this. When we update our CRM, automatically create the job or the project in Procore. All those sorts of interactions with files, with statuses, with approvals can run through this tool, right? Getting e-signature, every e-signature tool, getting documents signed, right? Text messages, that sort of thing. It's all possible using Power Automate. And in addition to that, there's a lot of really amazing AI capabilities built into Power Automate too. So whenever you get a contract for you guys to sign, or a service ticket, or an invoice, you can have this system actually read, right, all the information out of that and put it into Timberline, put it into, QuickBooks, whatever system you have, right? These are ways to make progress so you can work more on the business, not in the business, right? Glue your systems together, that sort of thing. Yes, Jim?
Hey, I got a question. When an invoice comes in, if it can't read it, what happens?
Good question. We can set up confidence levels, Jim. So, if I'm really sure I've got it right, just send it on through for approval, right? Most organizations, they will have the system, read the invoice and then show the information in a step just to make sure it's verified. And then they hit, yep, that all looks correct, or they'll make some tweaks or changes. I would say it's right 95% of the time, which is not as high of a number as you might think, right? It doesn't get every single bit right, but it certainly saves you a lot of time as you're working and talking. Cool. But we can also teach it, like, if you're not confident about what you're doing, dial it back a bit and let me know I need to read this again. But it does a great job with handwritten text, all sorts of things. We've used this to build processes for uploading attendance, looking at daily status reports, that sort of thing, and ingesting that into a system, whatever that system might be. So Power Automate is a tool that you own. It's something you can use, maybe not to completely replace Procore, but start you down that path, down that journey, okay? Another tool you already own is Power Apps. If you haven't seen Power Apps before, it comes in two flavors. One is called a Canvas app, which is great for connecting to existing systems like Building Connected and Procore. The other has a pre-made look and feel and is often what we will use to replace or augment Procore outright. Okay, and I'll show you both now. The first one I want to show is actually in our slides, if I'm not mistaken. So here's a construction company based out of Boston, Benjamin Construction. And they have a Power app that they use on their phones, and they use SharePoint to create all their jobs, all the categories of construction projects that they do. And then this Power app pulls from that list of projects and jobs and lets them take photos of the job site, right from their phones, lets them do tool transfers, lets them scan a QR code for which trash they're putting in which dumpster and where the trash came from. They're very obsessed over whose trash is whose. I don't know why, but we've got lots of tracking for that. I've seen better tracking of trash from them than I've seen like billable hours for some professional service companies in the past. So it's very impressive. But you can use Power Apps to build desktop applications, tablet applications. I've seen companies like yours in this audience today have an attendance tracker built in this, where it shows everybody that's supposed to be on the job site, and they walk the tablet around and everybody squiggles their signature as they're talking using this. And then it's fed back into a main database using these tools. Not only can you take pictures and GPS and things like that, you can also use these tools to help on a job. There is a measurement capability built into this. I use this a lot with moving companies, where you can put a dot on the camera and go from here to here. What's the difference, right? And it can be right in as little as an inch. And you can click off an entire floor, and it will show in that floor, the area of this floor is 30 square feet. Right? You can measure distances to make sure things will fit through. So when you're doing an initial analysis of a job site, you can really get a quick sense of how large the job is, et cetera, et cetera. You can do a lot with this. There's a lot more controls like this built into Canvas apps, into these Power Apps. But I wanted to show you one just to give you a sense that, hey, there's a lot of capabilities here. And if you're wondering, what does a Power App cost? Nothing. It's included with your Office 365 account. You already own this, right? Again, just like Power Automate, you have this capability. Take advantage of it, right?
Yeah. The trick's just being, Dustin, what we see with construction companies is like, oh, yeah, we went to the Verizon store and they convinced me to buy 10 iPads. And now I gave my people iPads, but they lose them, they break them, they put Candy Crush on them. So if you don't have that underlying stuff ready, and if the tool's not ready, then when you go to do the cool stuff, like it's just gonna be headaches. So that's one of the things when you get to these, there's so much power, but you've got to kind of put some guardrails in.
Sure, absolutely. This solves a bunch of problems and creates a bunch of new ones. But at the end of the day, I find that many organizations prefer this set of problems because as their organization grows and changes, they add new lines of business. Or change how they do things, the software can move with them. And it's not full code software development, to be clear. We're not programming in the general sense. We are typing our way, having conversations with the software. For example, if I were to say in these Power Apps, I need an equipment checkout manager. I want my staff to be able to check out equipment and be notified of when they're supposed to check it back in. I can actually type just that sentence into Power Apps, right? And have it vibe code an entire database and an entire application for me that does what I'm looking for. It's a great way to experiment and see what these tools are capable of. So I typed in that one sentence, I need my staff to check out equipment and be notified of due dates. And it came up with, I think there's two types of users, a staff member and an equipment administrator. And I can edit that, or I say, no, that looks good. That's correct. Okay, got it. Now that I understand that, I need to understand what the process will be, and it'll come up with that. And I'll go, yeah, that process looks good too, right? And then after I've come up with the process, I'll say, yeah, that looks good. And then, okay, I need to make a database, and the database will need to store the staff members, the equipment, the checkout records, the extension requests, notifications. Yeah, that sounds like a good looking database. And then I'm going to build a Power App and some Power Automate flows and some reports. Yep, that sounds good too. And then I can see what it built and start manipulating it. So this gives you the ability to really start understanding, like, how do these tools work? How do all these technologies interact with each other? We talked about Power Apps and Power Automate, and all I did was type in a single sentence, and I was able to build reports and build Power Automate flows to do things behind the scenes and build applications to run this software. I'm not suggesting you can run your entire organization by typing in a few sentences, but this is a great way to start getting a feel of what these technologies are capable of and how they work.
Yeah, and so Dustin, I see a lot of construction companies, and I'm visiting my own in this group in this with this issue, but like, oh, we use Google, we use Gmail.
Mhm.
Well, we really don't want to go to Microsoft, and I'm like, there, it opens up a whole new world of things. Well, can we just do some Microsoft stuff but keep Google? You can, but then when you're in the Microsoft world, half the features you want to use aren't going to work because your email is still with the Google platform.
Yeah.
So it's sort of that the maturation of the process, and yeah, it's just a completely different environment.
And there's a lot of things I like about Google, but some of the stuff I'm showing, like a Power App equivalent, they just don't have a similar analog to in their ecosystem.
And they're not going to, by the way. They're not,
Yeah,
it's not what they're going after anymore.
it's not. They're sort of, just maintaining the existing space that they have in the commercial world. They're more focused on other avenues right now, I'll say, other than things like this. But it built for me an entire application to use on a tablet. You can see it here. I even put in some sample data for things being checked out and in just to see what it would look like. It came up with fake equipment, to look at. I could have told it, hey, give it a construction bent. I should have done that. But there you go. And you say, no, I need more fields to track than this. You add all this together, and here, thanks to our CTO, Laura, I've got some examples to show you of some real systems that we've built for others that indeed left Procore, right? And so here we're seeing some screenshots of systems built using Power Apps, using Dynamics, right? Using Power Automate that are doing project management directly inside of this system. They left Procore behind. And now instead of spending what Procore costs, they're spending as little as $5 a month per user to do it this way instead, keeping track of their projects in general, maintaining their bid board and bid campaigns, what UCI codes will be necessary for this project, what surveys are we doing, what are our program's goals, what personnel are we assigning to the project, right? These are really powerful tools. And I'll show some more screenshots of these. Jim, are you impressed yet?
I mean, like, where do I sign up?
Yeah.
No, I mean, quite frankly, Dustin works with probably about half of BMore Technology's clients. Because in our process of talking to prospects, we talk to them like, hey, I tell people, we build roads. We make your technology I-95, nice, smooth, flat, guardrails, lights, and we get everything set up. And then you go to Dustin, and then you get the sports car, and then you run it, and then you just take off. I was like, if you get Dustin, who's a sports car, and you try to run him on a dirt road, doesn't work very well, does it? So yeah, these are the cool things that you can do. And we see clients that have a lot of legacy systems, what I refer to as technical debt. And they're like, oh, well, how do we get data from this system and this system into stuff Dustin wants to do? And I'm like, well, first you gotta get rid of that stuff, and you gotta get into the cloud, and you gotta get into platforms that talk to each other. So it's a journey, not a race, right, Dustin?
Yeah, absolutely. It takes more time than buying something that's turnkey. The benefits of buying something turnkey is you're up and running quick, but if you don't totally fit into that product or the licensing becomes untenable over time, you may wish that you spent the time building something bespoke to your organization, right? And this is the case of that. It's not necessarily an easier path or a better path. It's just a different path if the products you're using today may no longer be a perfect fit, right? But you'll never run into hitting the lines of what this is capable of. And often when we first bring up this concept, when Jim and I hear, these Procore updates are killing me, I'll say, have you considered this? Well, we couldn't move to that because it can't do submittal tracking. How do you know? Like, no, we do submittal tracking all the time. This is a shot of us for a particular project doing submittal tracking. And this grid, you don't have to drill into each record. It works like an Excel spreadsheet, and it's sending emails out to the GC saying, hey, take a look at this attached PDF and click yes if you approve, no if not, give us reasons why. And then it's updating this and sending notifications. We've built submittal tracking for a lot of organizations. We've built a lot of bid boards. We're working internally. We're building stuff to work with subcontractors. We're building systems to do invitations to bid There really is very, very little that you can't recreate, using these tools right inside of here. One of the things that does come up is, yeah, but what about building connected? It's got this master list of all of the contractors out there. You can't build that into here. And I say, you're right, I can't. And then I smirk and I say, but we both know that that list of data is pretty bad. And they go, yeah, it's got a lot of bad records in it. Do you know what I mean? I said, so imagine that you could easily bring over from building connected records and keep your own master list and then start building on your reviews of that organization and making sure that the data stays up to date, because it's gotten to the point, I hear from a lot of people lament, it was a great feature that Building Connected had this master yellow pages of everybody, but the data has become so dirty, it's just as much harm as it is good at this point, right? It's so out of date. And so this is a chance to sort of reset. So even when I hear, yeah, but I've got Building Connected that does this, yeah, but do you like it? No, but that's because I have no other options. Well, I'm showing you another option. Do you know what I mean? You could start having your own. Yeah, maybe I should consider that. So, Laura, anything you want to add as I show off these shots?
So far, so good.
Okay, good. Well, thanks for nothing.
If Laura thinks doing a good job, then we get gold stars.
Yeah. She's the one who puts these presentations together and often builds these systems. This is a great case. This is a new project of yours, Laura, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sizable DC a prime contractor. And you'll notice we didn't replace every system. There's a little screenshot right up here in the corner. See that? She made a button. Send to Timberline, right? So as they're putting together a project, import a schedule, export everything we're drafting here into a PDF as well. I've got lots of options of ways to write this up really quickly to say, these are the sections of a document we need. Now spit out a document to send to a customer or something like that. It's pretty cool. You can use these systems for check-ins of subs, time entries, that sort of thing is very common for us. This is an organization out in California, they're a construction company that we built. They're leaving Procore, and building systems inside of these technologies as well. They'll keep track and build reports of their subcontractors inside of here. How are they doing? Were they late? Were they on budget? That sort of stuff, and give them screens to fill out from their phones, from their desktops, saying, hey, click here, and you can fill out, oh, Joe Schmo, I've worked with him in the past for things like that. So you can, if Procore fits you like a glove, you're probably not watching this webinar right now. But if it doesn't, the short and simple version is, first, we always recommend go to G2. Go see if there's something niche built out there for you that meets the need that you could possibly use, and investigate it and go use it. But if not, you don't have to necessarily run to custom software development. You can use the platforms you already own to build what you need. And that really is a viable path. And there's lots of examples out there of organizations doing that. In certain other industries beyond construction, tools like the ones I've shown you today have completely cannibalized the market. They have lost their Procore. These tools have eaten the market share up to the point where there is simply none of those left. And older players in certain markets are really feeling it the most. I work with a lot of construction companies. You see here right in the middle of the screen that run on computerese, right? And computerese may have earned that title back when it was first written, but it sure doesn't fit the world today.
Yeah.
Computerese has no ability to connect to software in the modern landscape, right? It doesn't have any APIs. That's how programs talk. It just is so outdated, and Deltek's not putting anything into it. And so I see a lot of companies that were happy with it. And in the 90s and aughts, sure, that was a good piece of software, but it hasn't kept up right? And it can't connect to all the things that we need to use today. And so what was once a boon has now become this big hindrance. That's the sort of thing that you need to watch out for. It's tough. You get sort of a Stockholm syndrome with software of, yeah, but we've relied on this for so long. Well, yeah, but newer competitors in your space come along, they get the advantage of picking software that's much more connected. It's taking them half as long to do the same work as you because of busy work. People that I know that are on computeries are spending half their day importing and exporting CSV files left, right, and center to get data in, get data out, get people paid. It's not a modern product. And I've spoken to Dell Tech about computeries, and like they're just really letting it putter along, it seems like at this point. I'm like, when are you going to add these features? And the answer is them sort of looking at the floor. So I bring them up because I sort of see them as the opposite of Procore in a lot of ways. I know the two tools don't exactly fit the same market, but I think computeries, it's not the cost that's the problem. It's the lack of motion, right? Of any ability to stay relevant in today's world. Procore is at the center of everybody's world, but they're adding features and functionality, or at least attempting to, so fast they can't figure out how to stay a profitable enterprise. And we're all feeling the strain because of it. So I see them as two sides of the same coin in the space, both popular, both struggling for two different reasons. Maybe something that's not necessarily industry specific is what you need, because I'll tell you, Laura, every time we build a Procore competitor, they're never the same, are they? Right? Two companies building the same type of construction projects of similar size will wind up with two wildly different implementations of these tools, even when they both came from Procore. They don't try to recreate Procore. They try to create something specific to their needs. And yeah, that's how we often do it. This is going great for me, Brittany, because nobody has stumped me.
So I'll throw some stuff at you. So I met with a prospect GC yesterday, and they did the heavy lift to move to foundation in the cloud, right? But their current problem is that their timesheets, and this is a sizable GC, their timesheets are handwritten in the field. Every Friday, they get delivered to the office, and somebody in the office manually types all of that data into foundation.
Yeah.
And they're like, we want to solve this, but we know that our technology infrastructure doesn't support solving this. We know we're going to have to buy something, but we don't know where to go. We don't know what to do. And of course, I said, well, the first thing we got to do is get rid of this 15-year-old server and, yada, yada, yada. But talk me through that. Like, what could you build, or can you simply just take Power Automate and build something that takes timesheet data, collects timesheet data on tablets or cell phones and dumps it into foundation?
Yeah, I mean, in this particular use case, they didn't have anything. So we built it into the database they already have, but it is just as common for us to use these tools to say, all right, click this QR code on the job site or this link and type in the rest of the details of where you are. You know what I mean? And we, in this example, sent it to a Power App, but we could just as easily, provided that they have APIs, connect and submit this data into another existing system they already own, right? We can use forms like these in the Power Platform that you already own from Microsoft to submit this stuff. And you don't have to have a license to do it. We can build these in a way where, like in this case, it works with subcontractors as well, right? So you've got the tools to do it. And we have seen organizations buy construction industry specific things, and I'll look at it and go, that's just a form tool. And they're like, yeah, we know it's a form tool, but it's for the construction industry. And I go, okay, what does that mean? And they're like, for construction. And I'm like, but it's just a bunch of fields on a screen and you're typing in stuff and then it's going to a system. Like it's the same, it's just a form tool. And I find a lot of times that I see stuff where people slap the label, it's for your space on it. And I'm like, but it's just a form tool, This is a Coca-Cola for nonprofits. how does it taste different than a normal Coca-Cola? Well, it says nonprofits on it. No, like it's just a Coca-Cola. So you can use the tools you have to do something similar, Jim, for sure. That was not my best analogy. I'm not going to use it again. That was weird.
I liked it.
Thank
You
you.
just said Coca-Cola for construction versus regular Coke. You tied it together there.
Yeah, that would have been better. I'm sorry. I'm not on my A game today, but the point still stands. There's nothing wrong with industry specific tools, but come on, a form tool is a form tool is a form tool.
Yeah,
We don't have to go that route.
And to your point,
There you go.
there will be some apps that you have to buy that are industry specific.
Sure.
But there's a lot of connective tissue that can be built with the Microsoft platform to make getting data from tool A into tool B, where the client, where the company says, "Oh yeah, we don't integrate, but here's some APIs." And then, Inside Automation can pull data out of system A and put it into system B, or pull data out of system A and out of system B and create a system in the middle that gives you the reports that you need.
Yeah. No.
It's a wide open field if you really engage in it.
The area, so there's certain areas where these tools, honest to goodness, are stronger than a Procore. Certainly flexibility, the way they handle documents and project management. We've had a lot of success, organizations actually liking the resource management, project management, automation capabilities of the stronger. But then people will say, where is it weaker? And the answer is it typically revolves around hyper industry specific things like the sort of stuff that Bluebeam does, right? Marking up and collaborating on blueprints, and CAD drawings and things like that. That is where it's weak. But we also make it clear, hey, everybody likes Bluebeam, even us. Bluebeam integrates really well with the Microsoft ecosystem. So just because you're getting rid of Procore doesn't mean you have to get rid of that. Even if you're keeping Procore, we get a lot of organizations that make Teams the center of their world. And SharePoint, a place to store documents. I have met lots of organizations, it's almost puzzling to me, that love keeping their documents in Procore. I've met others that would never keep their documents in Procore no matter what you gave them, to do it. And I still don't totally understand why both cases are true, but I can tell you in our organization, we give a team per customer that we work with, okay, and per project that we do. The reason we do that is, number one, it gives us an area to have a conversation about that customer, about that project in here. And for those of you on the call that don't know, if you make Teams sort of the center of the world, it's great on a phone, it's great on a tablet, it's great when you're in the field. It also has, at no extra charge, a Nextel push-to-talk feature built in. So when 5 people are on a certain project, and you're all within the same vicinity and you're all locked into that project, you can click, Steve, are you on the site right now? And it'll push to talk to everybody's phones, and it doesn't cost you a dime. You can bring in your other web-based applications into here and make this product not just a place to collaborate about a particular project, but a place to access your files that can be stored in the cloud. Don't have to be SharePoint. You can bring in other data sources as well. A place to store notes, a place to store photos. You can embed other systems and applications inside of this, and you can give your staff a single pane of glass to go to find everything you need. And the pushback I usually get from construction companies is, yeah, but to use this, I got to buy everybody a Office account. And I'll say, maybe not. And even if you did, you may not be aware, but Jim can certainly talk about there are F licenses, F1, F2, F3, that cost dollars, like $2, $3, $4, and give people an email inbox, access to SharePoint, access to Teams at a very reasonable price, right?
Yep.
So
yeah, you're exactly right. You were saying it, and I was thinking that, but you said it at the end. So
we've been doing this too long together.
Yeah. Dustin actually helped me innovate BMore Technology because we were doing SharePoint, moving off of our file server, and then we got into Teams. And Dustin's like, "Look, how you can make SharePoint and Teams work together." And now, I run BMore Technology out of basically 2 apps: our line of business app that does and it's specifically built for IT service providers, but it does everything, all of our invoicing and everything. But then of all of our internal stuff, it's in Teams, and it doesn't matter whether I got Teams on my phone or Teams on my computer or, Teams on my wife's computer, because I left mine in the car. Like, all my data is just there, and it's the same. And having those less clicks, and then when I'm bringing on new employees and I'm teaching new employees the system, it just makes it so much more connected and so much easier to train our staff. One thing that you mentioned, like Bluebeam, to keep in mind is, like, there's all these, and this is in my world, there's all these apps, and there's Bluebeam, and there's AutoCAD, and there's this website, and there's Foundation, and this. Hey, I got 37 logins. Well, you probably shouldn't. For example, like Bluebeam can actually integrate with 365 so that you can log into Bluebeam using your 365 credentials, right? You can log into Foundation using your 365 credentials. That does a couple of things. One, it's security, because now your Microsoft security, your multi-factor authentication applies to that application. Two, if you have to let somebody go or you have to cut somebody out of your system, you disable one account. Their VoIP doesn't work anymore. They can't get the Bluebeam anymore. They can't. So when you start to centralize that stuff, it improves your security posture on the back end, but it also makes setups a lot more easy. You don't have a new employee setting up 4 authenticator apps on their phone, one for each application, because everything just authenticates against 365. And then, again, get that stuff done, and then you get to do the cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was actually a good setup for what I was going to go next. If you are using a bunch of different tools and you don't want to leave them, Power Automate, which I showed earlier, is a great way to synchronize them so you're not retyping the same customer, the same employee multiple times to save you some busy work. We can often use Power BI, right, to build reporting that pulls from all of your systems. Don't just pull from your project management system or your sales system or your accounting system. Pull from all of them. You can build reports inside of these tools that will bring the data together in Power BI and show everything on a single screen. That'll allow you to discover things about your data. Now, I will say, when it comes to Procore, they've done everything in their power to make it very, very difficult to connect to Power BI unless you buy their connectors. In the early days, I had a really easy time connecting to it, but they've made their APIs almost impossible to pull and slurp all the data out that we need, because they acquired a company that did that and they want you to go through them. But it's still doable in certain circumstances, depending on what you need. So it's always worth exploring, but getting all your data in one system can be really worthwhile.
Yeah, and I see this kind of stuff, Dustin, as I'm out there talking to other business owners, somebody who owns a construction company. I have one customer, they own a construction company and they own a brewery. Or they own a construction company, they own something else. And they're like, hey, man, how do I aggregate all my data from multiple QuickBooks files or whatever? How do I get one set of reports? So yeah, that's the Power BI.
Yeah, absolutely. This is how you do that. So we talked about Power Automate, we talked about Power Apps, talked about Power BI. Because, Jim, you brought up the topic of owning a lot of different things, the next big layer of sprawl, and I'll wrap up with this, that I want folks to consider is, the explosion of AI. And across all sorts of industries, and believe me, construction is no different, we're seeing organizations consider hyper-specific AI implementations for very niche needs. Maybe that makes sense, but more often than not, and I go, I don't want organizations to buy these pre-bundled AI bits that solve one little need. Buy our AI thing and it will help you write your construction proposals, and it shows up in Outlook. I don't want to feed some fly-by-night company that data. I don't want to have 9 AIs in my organization. The other thing I see organizations doing is just buying ChatGPT or buying Claude, and then that's equivalent to me, Jim, of everybody storing their files on their laptops again, right? And the trouble that causes. I want organizations to consider an enterprise AI. ChatGPT sells a great enterprise AI. Microsoft sells a great enterprise AI called Copilot Studio. I'm going to show it off for a second because it's by far the cheapest. It is not Copilot. There's Copilot and there's Copilot Studio. This does not cost 30 bucks a month per user.
There's
This
actually
costs a couple pennies. What's
there's
that?
actually Copilot Chat, which is the free stuff with Windows. And
Yeah.
there's Copilot that's like the business, and then there's Copilot Studio. So there's like there's like a Copilot Chat. They just rebranded it. I was just on a Microsoft call, Dustin. Have you heard that? Like that's what they're calling the free stuff.
Yeah, I saw that too yesterday. You're right. The great thing about Microsoft's implementation is you can choose what AI model you want to bring to the table, and switching them is as simple as a single drop-down switch. So if I want to have an AI start reading some of my contracts and weighing in with me, how does ChatGPT's model compare to Claude's? I can click around and find out, and I can bring all the data from my organization into an enterprise AI like this one. And again, there's other models as well. We can help you set up connections to the systems that you use, right? Except, what was the one I mentioned earlier? Not Cost Point. I always forget its name. You know what I mean? The old system I was clowning about. Yeah, thank you. Computeries, except Computeries. I can't bring that in, but everything else I can bring in. And then so you can bring in all of your data and knowledge. And then under tools, you can teach the AI to write back to your systems. Whenever we get a time entries report, read it, and if it looks valid, then update Procore that we have the timesheets for the day. We can teach the AI what systems to write to and what specifically it's allowed to send updates, notifications, and reminders on. So knowledge brings data in, tools pushes it out. Topics lets you put the AI on guardrails. I want to create a new order. I'm happy to help you make an order. What state is it? Well, if it's California, Washington, or Oregon, then ask this. But if it's any other state, then ask this. And then check our project management system and see if this customer is already in the system. And if they are, great. If not, add them. You can ask this product to sort of keep this AI on guardrails. You can still ask it for a recipe for banana nut bread. But if you have specific requests and you want it to interact with your systems a certain way, you can put it on guardrails. And then lastly, there's channels. Once you've built your enterprise AI for your whole organization and taught it how to read your data, how to push it out, now that I've built it, deploy it over top of mediocre Copilot, right? And so it shows up in Outlook, it shows up in PowerPoint. So if you're in PowerPoint, you can pull it out from the side and say, make a chart and a graph to update the C-suite on all the projects we have going on overall and show the budgets between them all. And because this AI can read from your systems, it's able to actually do that work. It doesn't just know what's out there on the internet. Have it work with email, right? Have it work with all sorts of different providers. That's what's possible inside of a system like this. So I brought all this up, Jim, just because I went on this tangent, just because you brought up people are getting more and more software. You and I are trying to help them get into less and less to the extent possible. And this is the next big sprawl, our AIs. And I'm urging people, maybe there's a good use case for some hyper purpose built thing, but it's sort of the opposite of what I said earlier about software. When it comes to software, go to G2, see if there's a fit, and if not, build it. But when it comes to AI, I think it's the opposite model. Start with an enterprise one, Microsoft's, Google's, ChatGPT's. And if those aren't a fit, then maybe you go to the company that I think is going to be a fly by night and buy theirs.
And so to your point, AI, it's the sprawl. We got Read AI, we got this AI, we got, and really what you're doing is you're taking corporate data and you're spreading it out.
Yep.
Right. So when you do Read AI or even ChatGPT, if you give ChatGPT Enterprise access to your 365 tenant, you're getting access to everything. ChatGPT then has access to your CEO's emails. Just does.
Yep.
Is that really what you want? So we're more of a Copilot proponent because it stays in the bubble. I use ChatGPT. I've used it before, but I don't use it for business. But with the problem you run into is you have individual employees using Claude and this employee using ChatGPT for free and this employee, and really it's starting to corral all of that stuff. It's a lot to learn, and it's not going to slow down. I tell people technology is like the hamster wheel. You just got to get in it, and you don't have to run. You don't have to kill yourself. But you get in that hamster and you steady walk. And every quarter, every 6 months, every year, what's the business plan? How are we growing? What are we changing? Because it's not like gone are the days of I wrote a check for $10,000. I have a server. I'm not doing anything but running projects for the next 10 years. Like, no, those days are gone. And I see to close it out, Dustin, I see legacy construction companies that have all of these servers and, they might be, I don't know, just put a number to it, $100 million.
They're back heels now.
Yeah, they're $100 million. And then I'll see a new GC that'll start, and in 10 years, they've been around for 50 years, they're $100 million. I'll see a new GC that started 8 years ago, and they're already at 70 million. And they're like, how was this possible? Well, because they're not carrying all of that legacy paperwork, legacy technical debt. They're taking the stuff that's out there now, and they're bidding jobs faster. They're getting them done under budget, and they're doing it with less admin staff, right? They don't have 50 people in the office manually typing in timesheets, and they're just growing.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yep. And then the company I met with yesterday was the exact opposite. Like, we got to catch up. We got to catch up, or we're not going to be here. Okay, let's get in the hamster wheel.
Yep. And I'll say often it's tough. Some of these tools actually feel slower at first for some that come from legacy platforms that are desktop based and server based. Like, it's tough to see the advantages sometimes for legacy providers in the beginning, because they're trying to match it against what they had today. They're not even trying to do all the stuff they couldn't even do before, right? They're so hyper-focused on that. Laura, you and I have had quite a few calls like that, right? On that front. We go, but now your car has air conditioning. And so but the engine's not as loud. I liked it. It was felt like a muscle car. Yeah, but now you've got airbags and stuff. Versus the 60s car. I get it. I like those cars too, but it's time. So
yeah. Sometimes you just gotta take one thing, take one task, and automate, and just get that small win and build momentum. To your point, where like people are like, oh, I like to just spend $10,000 and buy Procore, and they drop this whole washing machine off in my office, and now I've got something. Well, that's great, but you only have that. Like, if you start small and you build a process and structure, like with Dustin, it'll just grow and grow and grow and grow. It'll grow bigger than the washing machine. Bad analogy day, but it's a journey.
Absolutely. And I'll leave it with this. Any questions? Again, if you stump me, I got to build you something. Come on. Fine. Figured I'd try. But if you have any, reach out to Jim or I. If you're still mainly on-prem based, and you think that there's some basic infrastructure things, BMore Technology, reaching out to Jim is a great place to start, the best place to start. If you feel like that core is solid and you want to start exploring some of these quick wins, or explore further, like what can a system after Procore or integrating with Procore look like, reach out to Inside Automation, where both of our addresses are here, and we can help you get that started. And if you want to get me drunk and tell more stories about like what I'm seeing from big GCs and small subs and everything in between, and what their experiences are like and how they're solving it, anytime. There you have it.
I love a good lunch meeting. I'm a sucker for buying people lunch just so they'll chat with me, so that I can have an orange crush in the middle of my workday.
Thank you, guys. Are there any other questions, comments? As I mentioned, we'll follow up with the recording from today. For all the attendees that registered, we'll shoot you over this recording, and we look forward to seeing you at the next office hours.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Dustin and Jim.
Thanks, guys. Bye.